Why do we like to blame one another in relationships? For example, a lot of women would say that the reason why I nag so much Harrison is because he just doesn't listen to me. I look over to the guy and I say, is that because you don't listen to her? And he says, well, I don't listen to her because she doesn't respect my feelings. The whole session, I'm literally playing ping pong with my head. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And so what am I saying? I'm saying we have to do a better job of drawing boundaries in our relationships. A boundary is a separation between two forms of ownership. When I acknowledge a boundary over here, that's telling me this is something I own. This is something I am in charge of. Anything beyond that boundary line is something you are in charge of. It's something you are responsible for. So naturally, boundaries give way to ownership. If I know where a property line ends and begins, I know who is responsible for certain feelings. I know who is responsible for certain attitudes, who's responsible for certain actions. But if I don't know where those lines are, then I won't know where these feelings are coming from. This is why we blame people, because we don't know who's supposed to be owning what. We assume that it's supposed to be the man who's supposed to be doing this. We assume it's the woman that's supposed to be doing this, but because we're not clear, we can't own our own feelings. If I know that you own a certain set of feelings, then I know that that is your responsibility to deal with and not necessarily mine. What you find happening a lot of times is because we're not good regulators of ourselves and we don't live an aware life, we go through a lot of feelings that we tend to put on our partners, which they do not deserve. Sometimes we may be having rough days, and so because we didn't resolve that feeling, we bring that home to the relationship now. And so you hear things like, oh, I had a rough day today, so please don't come with that foolishness right now. We have to do a better job of owning our feelings, because if we don't take responsibility for where our feelings are coming from, how can we address issues that come out of those feelings? You see what I'm saying? A lot of times the issues we wrestle with in relationships are actually individual issues. And what if I told you that we have to take responsibility for relationship problems regardless of its origin? Sometimes we like to think just because you're dealing with the problem, you need to go and deal with that, but that's not necessarily the case. If you are in a relationship, you need to take responsibility for your feelings, for your thoughts, for your actions, for your behaviors, for love. All of these things are things that you as an individual need to take responsibility for. But see, again, if you aren't taking ownership because there are unclear boundary lines, you won't know what it is you need to be taking care of. It's almost like being put in a job and they tell you your job is strictly to answer the phone, but they never write that down on paper. And so by the time you're 1 year in, you're not only answering the phone, but you're doing personal things for other people. You're involved in projects that's not inside of your manifest. So guess what? Responsibility also teaches us that in some situations we have to learn how to feel differently. We base the reason why we are unhappy. We base the reason why we can't trust. Why we can't do the same things we used to do because of the thing that you did. We don't understand that a big part of the problem is how we react to the problem as well. If we're not spending time with ourselves trying to recognize, how does this thing make me feel? Why does it make me feel this way? If we can't talk about those things, then you are also contributing to the problem. It's not just the person that cheated. It's not just the person that lied. It's just not the person that backstabbed or did whatever it was that they did. It's also your responsibility to learn how to feel and to respond differently to certain situations in the relationship. And so with all this talk about boundaries, right? I know you can get the impression that you may be limited to the actions of what your spouse is doing, because sometimes our spouses do things that really affect us. But you have to understand, in relationships, you have freedom. You have the freedom of choice. You have the freedom to act and do things differently. You don't have to subject yourselves to the negativity or to the bad choices of what your partner is doing. You just have to understand how those choices affect you and what those choices are. Everybody who knows me and who follows this page, they know that I believe in God. And if you study the word, you will see that God created everything in freedom. Okay? He gave us the freedom to choose what it was we believed in. He gave us the freedom to choose what it was we wanted to do. He gave us the freedom to choose how we wanted to respond to people and to ourselves and to life as a whole. And so when you have freedom, you actually have the opportunity to love deeper, to be who you are without judgment, without criticism. But see, when we removed ourselves from God, we became enslaved to sin. That isn't freedom. This is why you find we are so subjected now to other people's emotions, to other people's feelings. This is why we feel so subjected to the negativity of our spouses, because we have removed ourselves from God, and so in the grand scheme of things, we are vulnerable to that. You gotta understand that in order for this relationship to flourish, there must be freedom. Whenever you can't have freedom, there's always gonna be rebellion. And so I don't want y'all to be scared when you allow your spouse to be who they are. Freedom breeds love, and love is what we're all aiming for in our relationships. So that's pretty much it, folks. Love can only exist where there is freedom. And so I hope that this video today was an eye-opener for a lot of you who may be experiencing a lot of these issues. But you know, this is only a video. If you find that this wasn't enough for you, maybe you can give me a call in my office, 356-7983, and maybe we can book a session and we can begin talking and working on some things. All right, so as always, guys, give this video a like and share so someone else can get this message too. All right, thanks.